So we've all seen it. Every time somebody posts something about PVC ducts, somebody's going to chime in and say, you're going to blow your shop up with that stuff. Is that really the deal? Well, let's find out. Well, as I said in the intro, and I'm sure we've all seen it. I mean, we've all seen it. Every time somebody says something about PVC ducts online, there's an assortment of guys that are going to chime in and say, oh, you're going to blow up. There's going to be all this static electricity. There's going to be all this. I mean, it's like Armageddon, you know, Danger Will Robinson kind of stuff. And it's just absolutely not true. So the thing that I do, that I try to do anyway, is I'll post back on those things and say, can you link me to a shred of evidence that that's actually true, that we're going to blow up, that there's actually going to be enough dust suspended in a duct and enough electrical charge at the same time to cause an explosion, a fire, or anything of that nature. And I've never once seen it. If you're one of those guys, if you'd like to post something, I mean, I'm willing to change my mind if you can show me. But I've had PVC ducts in my shop for over 20 years. Never once have I had a shock, and up to date, we haven't blown up. I don't think there's much chance of that. So I'm going to link to some stuff down below. Y'all know we've talked about it before, but I worked with Bill Pentz back in the early 2000s when we were doing some Cyclone kits and doing a bunch of testing and those sorts of things. And of course, Bill's a proponent of the PVC ducts. And as I said, I've had 6-inch ducts in my shop for 25 years. And for me personally, now I know this happens because I've seen it with other people, but there actually can be static charge on this that can give you a shock. And I get that. I absolutely do. I will say from my experience, and I have no scientific backing for this at all, but from my experience, never once have I ever gotten shocked from my own system. I only use flex that has metal in it, that has the actual wire, wound in it. So does that come into play? Is that causing some bleed off? I really don't know. But and like I said, I'll link to Dr. Rod Cole wrote a paper back many years ago. He's a PhD guy from MIT about this exact subject. Are the PVC ducts going to blow your shop up or cause a fire or any of that? So I'll link to that in the description, and I will I'll link to Bill's website also and some specific pages in his website. Bill's such an amazing guy and such an amazing engineer, but there's so much information on his website that sometimes it's a little hard to digest. So I'll link to some specific pages there about the PVC duct. So what we're going to do today is I want to just really take you around the shop, just show you about the PVC ducts that I have, show you a little bit about what I've done to make different hoods and to make adapt so we can get the maximum. And then we're going to come back in another video and I'm going to show you the real nuts and bolts of putting the PVC stuff together, what fits and what fits, what doesn't fit and what doesn't fit. Where I'll link to this as well too. And please, if you got a comment or a question, don't hesitate to put it down there. And I'll link to the places that I've been able to find where you can buy the cheapest I can find, that you can buy the pipe and you can buy the fittings. It's two different places. The Ace Hardware, crazy as that sounds, but Ace Hardware is the cheapest place I can find to buy the pipe. And this is not like Schedule 40 from Lowe's. These are sewer and drain pipes. They're much thinner. We don't need that big pipe. We don't need that heavy pipe for what we're doing here. Some places you can only get SDR 35, which is fine. And the SDR 35 and the regular S&D pipe, those fittings interchange both. The SDR 35 is actually a little bit thicker than the regular sewer and drain pipe, but the outside diameter is still the same. So those fittings will interchange between all of this. And the best place I can see to get fittings is a place called getpipe.com. And what they do that really helps out, their prices are lower on the fittings, but what they do that really helps out is over $100 they ship for free. So I'll link to all that down in the description. And so let me grab the camera, and we'll take a walk around the shop and look at some of these ducts and hoods and some of that stuff, and just gets a general idea of what we're doing with the PVC. All right, we'll start right here with the Cyclone. I've talked about it before, but I built this Cyclone back in the early 2000s, been using it ever since. It's a Bill Pentz design, of course. Bill designed this blower for me. It's a 17-inch Cincinnati fan, straight finned aluminum impeller, and a 5-horse Leeson. And I'm actually using a 6-inch intake here. And we can talk about this more in the second video, but if you've got a 3 horsepower, this is all kind of relative, but if you have a 3 horsepower collector, there's no reason you can't power these 6-inch ducts. And the more air you can move, the better it's going to be. So, but I got a 6-inch intake. We tried an 8-inch intake on this, which is fine, but it'll actually make the motor pull more amps than it really should. So, like I said, that's the system. It's a wind environmental filter, of course. The muffler, Bill's design muffler that I built, insulated coming out. So we're going 6-inch, and a lot of people, first thing, I know somebody's going to comment, and it's not wrong, but this would be better if there was straight pipe coming out of that. How much better? I tested it. I really couldn't see much difference. So this helped me to get up here. So get everything up to the ceiling. We'll follow this along. It's coming down to the table saw first. And you can see I've got 2 gates here. I made these gates, and I've got a little bit different design. They're super easy to make, and they're super cheap, and they actually seal 100%. And so in the next video, we'll make some gates, and I'll show you how to do that. But I got 6-inch coming over here, 6-inch traveling on to the saw on the other side. We'll show you that. 4-inch coming to the overhead guard, and really more of a collector than a guard. But this is a Wood Magazine. I'll link to this as well, of course. But Wood Magazine had this basic design, and I've modified it to fit my needs from years ago. But this just does an amazing job on this saw. And this is an old 1023 Grizzly saw, and the dust collection was horrible, as it always is in these huge cabinets, because there's just so much free air in the cabinet. But I've been able to vastly improve this just with some HVAC fittings, and you're going to see HVAC fittings all through this whole deal, because the HVAC, even the section at Lowe's or Home Depot, or especially the HVAC store that might be next to you, in your area somewhere, is really a cool place for this. But I converted, it had a 4-inch port on it. I converted to a 6-inch port with a simple 6-inch HVAC takeoff. And then I'll put a picture up, but there's another HVAC takeoff in there with a 4x12x6 register boot that is right under the blade, that just made that an amazing difference on collection there. So coming from this Y in the ceiling, it's coming all the way over to the bandsaw. And another gate here that's going, a 6-inch gate that's going into 2/4. Probably should have moved that ramp before I did this. But anyway, they're going in the stock places here. But as you can see, I propped this door open because that really helps. You got to move the air. That's the whole deal. You can't think so much about suction here. You really have to think about how does the air move. So that really helps get the air moving and improves the dust collection there a lot. So, all right, continuing on, coming over here, another 6-inch drop. And this is really important whenever we do this. These ducts need to be as big as possible for as far as possible. So coming down to this Performax sander, which just, as you can imagine, just makes a massive amount of dust, is a 6-inch right down here with pretty much the minimum of a 4-inch. Obviously, talked about it 100 times, but Need to minimize the flex for sure, and this does a really good job. So we're continuing on, another Y, coming over to this little group, and being able to group these things together like this really helps you. You can get, all these gates close. This 4-inch works pretty well in this sander. I'm pretty pleased with it. One reason that it works well is just because I've got, so much suction, so much power, more HVAC. You'll see when we do the gates, but there's a couple of different ways to do this, but HVAC takeoffs are just super easy and fairly reasonable. So you see almost every gate has that. And then whether it's 6-inch flex or 4-inch flex, it goes perfectly right on to these HVAC takeoffs. So that makes life really easy. I made a new port for the joiner. Obviously it had a 4-inch port before, and it was just literally a piece of sheet metal that went back into place of the original one with another HVAC takeoff on it. I've got this 4-inch hose that I can move around between the top of the router table, the bottom, maybe we can see that. Oh, we can. The bottom of the router table and over to the sander, even though most of the time I actually don't use that port on the sander. I'll just take the hose over there because that port is almost worthless. So I know that there are people now that make some different collector stuff for that 3D printed stuff, so that I'm sure those are better, but most of the time I'm just sticking the port over there and sticking it on with a piece of duct tape or something, as barbaric as that sounds. All right, we're coming off of this Y again up here, and obviously this has been talked about to death, but we don't want to run 90s up there any more than a straight 90. So mostly 245s taped together. This has got a 45 already coming off the Y, obviously, and then another 45 coming down. So we're coming over here to the beast, to the Grizzly 20-inch planer, and we're reducing. So obviously another homemade gate here. And we're reducing from 6 to 5 because this thing actually has a 5-inch port on it. All right, going back to to this other Y. I've changed my shop around a little bit, so there's a Y there that's doing nothing. So I have another 6-inch coming across here with a gate with a long, that's the Rockler, Dust Right, whatever they call it, hose that's on there, and works for the lathe, even though I very seldom ever use the lathe for woodworking. And this is, we never can get what we want to get. It doesn't seem like on these miter saws, but this is my old Hitachi miter saw, and which I love the thing, but I've got 6-inch coming down here to the bottom, and this is another HVAC boot that I made, and just kind of made this little corral, and that actually does pretty well. The 4-inch going up here to this factory port is absolutely worthless. And when I say it's absolutely worthless, that's really what I mean, because even though that has a bigger port on the saw, the actual channel inside the saw is tiny. So that does very little, but it is what it is. And I've got my Hercules dust extractor right here. So I've tried that port with the dust extractor. It's just a bad design in the saw. So, but anyway, that does a decent job of picking stuff up. So that's basically the overview of our system. Give you a little look all around. You see a lot of tape on these. When I put this up, I made a mistake because I sealed all these joints with bathroom caulk because I thought it was going to stay flexible, and it did not. So over the years, it's gotten hard as a rock, and it cracked. And in lieu of having to chisel all that off, I've taped all these joints. And I'm kind of having the tape experiment here. So I got 2 or 3 different tapes going on. We'll talk about that in the next video. But anyway, a couple things before we go. You'll notice I'm not trying to bleed anything off of this because I've just never had any issues with it. And a lot of people have talked about it before already, but it's impossible to ground an insulator, and PVC is an insulator. There is a system where you can bleed off of it that seems to work, and we'll go over that more when we get into the nuts and bolts of it. But basically, I just wanted to reassure you, if you're thinking about PVC ducts, that you're not going to blow up. And like I said, for my experience in 20 plus years of these ducts, and honestly, this Cyclone generates about 8,000 feet per minute of duct speed. So if there was going to be a static problem, I think I'm probably the guy that would have it. So anyway, that does it for us today. Hey, leave me a comment if you got questions. If you don't believe any of this, man, please put it down there. Let's talk about it. And we'll be back soon with a nuts and bolts video of what fits together, what doesn't, how to do the PVC stuff, exactly how to cut it, and all that. That's coming up in the next video, so stay tuned.